timeline of events. Here is the accurate timeline of events on Earth based on the domain's archive. 208,000 BCE. The Old Empire established its headquarters located near one of the tail stars in the Ursa Major, Big Dipper, constellation that's part of the Milky Way galaxy. This group established its dominion by using nuclear weapons to wipe out societies previously dwelling in this space. After cleaning up the rubble, the Old Empire began receiving beings from other galaxies. This evil regime tumbled irredeemably approximately 100,000 years ago thanks to the domain's brave intervention. Earth's civilization bears resemblance to some aspects of the Old Empire, for instance, the architectural designs of specific buildings and monuments. Before 75,000 BCE. Historical research from the domain's archive suggests that the land masses of Atlanta and Lemur perhaps coexisted on Earth at the same time. This source of information also revealed a long-standing edict of the Old Empire prohibiting the unauthorized colonization of planets. However, the reports concerning the destruction of Atlanta and Lemur civilizations are insufficient. It's believed that they suffered a forceful extraction, but there's no conclusive evidence that sufficiently explains the disappearance of two entire electronic civilizations. According to Billy Meyer, a ufologist, Atlantic used a weapon that instantly converted matters to energy to instantly wiped out the Lemurian race. While this happened, a small group of Lemurians settled on the asteroid belt, and the same group directed an asteroid toward Earth. Once this asteroid hit Earth, it created a major flood which in turn submerged the entire Atlantic underwater. Both civilizations disappeared almost at the same time. This information fits what the domain was saying. Furthermore, planet Earth is an unsuitable space for the habitation of EBs due to the myriad types of naturally occurring global cataclysmic events which are indigenous to Earth. Furthermore, some EBs are responsible for global phenomena such as the one that destroyed the dinosaurs more than 70 million years ago. Before 30,000 BCE. Planet Earth became a prison facility for radical EBs or untouchables who refused to conform to the Old Empire's governance. The criminals, arrested in various parts of the Empire, were then encapsulated in electronic traps and transported to Earth. The regime also operated underground amnesia stations on Mars, the Rwenzori Mountains in Africa, the Pyrenees Mountains of Portugal, and the steppes of Mongolia. The pyramid civilizations were intentionally created as part of the EB prison system on Earth. The pyramid is alleged to be the symbol of wisdom. However, the wisdom of the Old Empire on planet Earth is intended to operate as part of the elaborate amnesia trap consisting of mass, meaning, and mystery. These are opposite to the qualities of an immortal spiritual being which have no mass or meaning. Mass represents the physical universe, including objects such as stars, planets, gases, liquids, and energy particles. The pyramids stood out as heavily solid objects, as were all the structures created by the Old Empire. Heavy, massive, dense, solid objects create the illusion of eternity. False meanings prevent knowledge of the truth. The pyramid cultures of Earth are a fabricated illusion. False meanings were invented to create the illusion of a false society to further reinforce the amnesia mechanism among the inmates in the Earth prison system. Mystery is built of lies and half-truths. All of the pyramid civilizations of Earth were carefully contrived of layer upon layer of lies, skillfully, combined with a few truths. The intricate rituals, astronomical alignments, secret rites, massive monuments, marvelous architecture, artistically rendered hieroglyphs, and man-animal gods were designed to create an unsolvable mystery for the EB prison population on Earth. The truth is every single EB on Earth came to Earth from some other planetary system. Not one person on Earth is a native inhabitant. Human beings did not evolve on Earth. Circa 15,000 BCE. The Old Empire forces supervised the construction of a hydraulic mining operation in present-day Bolivia near Lake Titicaca, Lake of Tin Stones. The operation oversaw the construction of the massive stone complex of carved stone buildings at Tiwanaku known as Calisasaya, and its Gate of the Sun, at an elevation of nearly 14,000 feet. 11,600 BCE. The Earth's polar axis shifted to an area within the seas. The last ice age came to an abrupt ending as the polar ice caps melted at a high rate. The excess water spilled into various oceans and large sections of dry land ended up submerged as a result. This included the last remaining vestiges of Atlantis and Lemuria. Massive extinctions of animals occurred in the Americas, Australia, and the Arctic regions due to the pole's translocation. 10,450 BCE. The construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza took place in 10,450 BCE. The pyramid's 4 air shafts point precisely to key stars in the Old Empire as seen from Giza. The alignment of the pyramids of Giza on the ground matches perfectly with the alignment of the constellation of Orion as seen in the sky from Giza. This specific architectural design is the earthly representation of the Milky Way. 10,400 BCE. Herodotus, a recognized Earth historian, suggested that records from the ruined civilization of Atlantis, containing valuable information on electronics and various technologies, were buried in a vault beneath the paws of the Sphinx. However, it's unlikely that the Old Empire prison system administrators would leave any traces of an electronic civilization intact. 8,212 BCE. The Veda or Vedic hymns are a set of religious hymns that were introduced into the societies on Earth. 8,050 BCE. This is a significant year that witnessed the destruction of the Old Empire. The remnants of the Old Empire space fleet in the solar system of Earth were finally destroyed in 1230 BCE. The newfound liberation encouraged beings from diverse galaxies to visit the former prison planet. The Jewish vividly described the strangers or Nephilim in the Book of Genesis and referred to them as sons of God. However, their deity ceases to exist when they get into an intimate heterosexual relationship. Before the domain's intervention, several EBs set up camps far away from Earth to avoid the reach of police or tax authorities. The Old Empire enforced taxes as a slavery mechanism and as punishment for nonconformity to their governance. 6,750 BCE. This period saw the establishment of an Old Empire operative known as Ta, tasked with the role of a divine ruler. He had followers composed of other divine rulers, and they collectively identified themselves as NTR, meaning guardians or watchers by the Egyptians. Their symbol was the serpent, or dragon, which represented a secret priesthood of the Old Empire called the Brothers of the Serpent. The empire's civil and mechanical engineers used cutting tools that emitted highly concentrated light waves to quickly carve and excavate stone blocks. They also used force fields and spacecraft to lift and transport blocks of stone weighing hundreds of thousands of tons. The placement on the ground of some of these structures will be found to have geodetic or astronomical significance relative to various stars in this galactic region. The Old Empire continuously sent divine rulers to planet Earth to deceive human beings with doctored religions. 6,248 BCE. The Domain Space Command gathers intelligence on the existence of remnants from the Old Empire space fleet. This leads to a series of wars that lasts for 7,500 years. 5,965 BCE. The Domain took over planet Venus as a defensive position against the space forces of the Old Empire. They also studied diverse life forms found on the planet and found it interesting that they developed resistance against sulfuric acid clouds and scorching temperatures. The Domain established secret installations and space stations along the asteroid belt used as a galactic jump between the Milky Way adjoining galaxies. 3450 to 3100 BCE. Acting out of urgency, the domain sent officers to counterattack the divine rulers stationed on Earth by the Old Empire. They were forced to replace the false deities with human leaders, which led to the establishment of a dynasty known as Men. He established the capital city called Men-Nefer, namely the beauty of Men in Egypt. This started the first succession of 10 human pharaohs plus chaos that lasted for 350 years, followed by administrative ranks of the Old Empire. 3200 BCE. Heavy warfare ensued between the domain and Old Empire. The combat operations required secrecy, and that's why a majority of Earth historians were subjected to amnesia. This led to them considering most events as religious. Furthermore, technology and civilizations installed on Earth were prepackaged. The cultures, complete with all of the details of racial body types, hairstyles, facial makeup, rituals, moral codes, and so forth, just appeared as complete integrated packages. All physical evidence suggests that all evidence of the intervention of the domain or Old Empire forces, or any other extraterrestrial activity, has been carefully cleaned up so as not to create suspicion. 3172 BCE. The layout of the astronomical grid that joins the key mining sites and astronomical buildings of the gods in the Andes Mountains such as Tiwanaku, Cusco, Quito, the cities of Ollantaytambo, Machu Picchu and Pacacamac for the mining of rare metals, including tin for use in making bronze. Metals were the property of the gods, of course. Currently, all mineral resources of Earth are a property of the domain. 2450 BCE. The construction of the complex pyramids near Cairo was completed in 2450 BCE. The so-called pyramid texts are inscriptions created by the Old Empire administrators. According to the ancient inscriptions, the pyramid was built under the direction of Thoth, son of Ptah. Contrary to popular belief, there was never a king buried in the chamber, since the pyramids were never intended as burial chambers. The Old Empire constructed the pyramids at the exact center of all of the land masses of Earth, as viewed from space. Such precise measurements require aerial perspective and a view of the land masses of Earth from space. Purely mathematical calculations of the geodetic center of the continents of Earth could not be made otherwise. The engineers constructed shafts inside the pyramid to align with the configuration of stars in the constellation of Orion, Canis Majora, and specifically Sirius. The shafts are also aligned to the Big Dipper, where the home planet of the Old Empire existed. Also, Alnitak, Alpha Draconis, and Beta Ursa Minor. Each of these specific stars forms a key system in the Old Empire from which EBs were brought to Earth and dumped as unwanted merchandise. The configuration of the Giza pyramids was intended to create a mirror image of the solar system and specific constellations within the Old Empire. 2181 BCE. Min became the god of fertility in Egypt. This EB, also known as Pan, was also a Greek god. Min or Pan was an EB who somehow managed to escape from the Old Empire amnesia system. 2160 to 2040 BCE. The domain had successfully broken the dominance of the Old Empire's divine rulers. The evil system was also on the verge of losing control of the domain. They finally left Egypt and returned to the heavens in defeat. Human beings took over leadership as pharaohs for the first time. The first human pharaoh moved the capital city of Egypt from Memphis to Heracleopolis. 1500 BCE. The Egyptian high priests, Xenophus of Heliopolis, Sankis of Sais plus the Greek sage Solon believed that the destruction of Atlantis occurred in this specific period. The priests of Anu also recorded that the Atlantean people invaded the Mediterranean area in 1500 BCE. However, the invaders did not originate from the ancient continent of Atlanta, and the Atlantic Ocean, which existed more than 70,000 years before the Mediterranean invasion. Plato's references to Atlantis were borrowed from the writings of the Greek philosopher Solon. An Egyptian priest identified as Atlantis Kepchu provided Solon with information about Atlantis. The name Kepchu happens to be the Egyptian name of the people of Crete. A few of the Minoan volcanic disaster survivors asked Egypt for help since they were the only other civilization with high culture in the Mediterranean area at the time. 1351 BCE, 1337 BCE. The Domain Expeditionary Force actively waged a war of religious conquest against the Egyptian mystery cult called the Priest of Amun, also known as the Old Empire Brothers of the Serpent, BOT. At this time the pharaoh Akhenaten abolished the priesthood of Amun and moved the capital of Egypt from Thebes to the new location at Amarna, at the exact geodetic center of Egypt. 1193 BCE. In the Near East and Achaea, the Greeks and Trojans fought for supremacy, which ended in the destruction of Troy as the finale of the Trojan War. While this event unfolded, the domain and remnants of the old empire clashed in a fierce battle. Fortunately, the Domain Expeditionary Force succeeded in neutralizing the enemy. 850 BCE. Homer, the blind Greek author and poet, copied texts from the Vedic, Sumerian sources, Babylonian and Egyptian mythology when writing a compilation of stories titled The Gods. His poems provide an accurate description of the exploits of beings on Earth who were able to avoid the Old Empire amnesia operation and operate without biological bodies. 700 BCE. The Vedic hymn's first translation was in Greek at the start of a cultural revolution in Western civilization that transformed crude and brutal tribal cultures into democratic republics motivated by peaceful coexistence. 638 to 559 BCE. An intuitive Greek man named Solos reported the existence of Atlantis after receiving information from the Old Empire high priests, Xenophus of Heliopolis and Sonchus of Sais, with whom he studied while in Egypt. 630 BCE. Zoroaster created religious practices in Persia around an Ebi called Ahura Mazda. This was yet another ploy to increase the number of monotheistic deities put in place by operatives of the domain to displace a panoply of Old Empire gods. 604 BCE. The Jewish authors who wrote Genesis describe incidents where angels or sons of God mated with women from Earth and bore them children. It's shocking to learn that the sons of God who came to Earth in 604 BCE were in fact pirates and merchants masquerading as deities. The group originated from various planetary systems beyond the Milky Way galaxy, and they were on a mission to steal mineral resources or smuggle drugs. The Bible also reports the story of a human named Ezekiel who witnessed a spacecraft or aircraft landing near Chebar River in Chaldea. He describes the craft in archaic language, but is nevertheless quite an accurate description of an Old Empire saucer or scout craft. It's a similar event to the sighting of Vimanas by the people residing at the foothills of the Himalayas. The Book of Genesis also mentions that Yahweh designed biological bodies to live for 120 years on Earth. Biological bodies on most Sun-type 12, Class 7 planets are engineered to last for approximately 150 years. Human bodies, however, have a lifespan that ranges within 50% of the maximum duration. We suspect the reason behind this is that prison administrators altered the biological material that creates human bodies. This led to people becoming more prone to death, which was necessary to implement mind control. EBs who die and inhabit human bodies get recycled through the amnesia mechanism more frequently. The serpent symbolized the Old Empire. It appears in the creation story described in Genesis and causes the spiritual destruction of the first human beings, who are metaphorically represented by Adam and Eve. The Old Testament, clearly influenced by the Old Empire forces, gives a detailed description of the EBs being induced into biological bodies on Earth. This book also describes many of the old empire's brainwashing activities, including the installation of false memories, lies, superstitions, commands to forget, and all manner of tricks and traps designed to keep EBs on Earth. Most importantly, it destroys the awareness that humans are immortal spiritual beings. 580 BCE. The oracle at Delphi was part of several religious centers that belonged to a network of oracle temples. Each temple served as a communication center and had a local god assigned by the Old Empire. The shrines were located at precisely 5 degrees of latitude intervals from the capital city of Thebes, throughout the Mediterranean area as far north as the Baltic Sea. The temples served as a grid, housing electronic beacons, later called omphalos stones. The grid arrangement of oracle sites is visible only from an aerial viewpoint. The original network of electronic communications beacons was disabled and replaced by carved stones when the priesthood was dispersed. The oracle at Delphi identified the Old Empire's symbol as the earth dragon, which is always represented in sculpture and vase paintings as a serpent. According to Greek mythology, an oracle named Python, the serpent was the guardian of the omphalos stones at the temple at Delphi. She was an EB who was conquered by a god named Apollo and buried under the omphalos stone. This is a highly accurate euphemism for the domain force responsible for disabling the Old Empire's temple network located on Earth. This event devastated the Empire's operations in the solar system. 559 BCE. A domain expeditionary force, DEF, search party sent to planet Earth manages to locate the commanding officer of the domain battalion who was lost in 5965 BCE. He was incarnated as Cyrus II of Persia during this time. 200 BCE. Teotihuacan is the last remnant of the Old Empire's pyramid civilization. The Aztec name means place of the gods, or where men were transformed into gods. Like the astronomical configuration of the Giza pyramids in Egypt, the entire complex is a precise scale model of the solar system that accurately reflects the orbital distances of the inner planets, the asteroid belt, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. It's now apparent that the builders received information on how to implement this solar system configuration from other sources, since Uranus wasn't discovered until 1787 through a telescope. Pluto also wasn't identified until 1930. A common element of the pyramid civilizations found on Earth is the frequent appearance of images bearing a snake, dragon, or serpent. This was part of a plan to create an illusion that the gods are reptilian and perpetuate mass amnesia. The beings who placed false civilizations on Earth are EBs just like you. Many of the biological bodies inhabited by EBs in the Old Empire are very similar in appearance to the bodies found on Earth. The gods are not reptiles, although they often behave like snakes. 1034 to 1124 AD. The entire Arab world was enslaved by one man, Hassan ibn al-Sabah, the Old Man of the Mountain. He established the Hashishin, a section of Mohammedanism that reigned over India, Asia Minor, and most of the Mediterranean basin by spreading fear and terror. They became a priesthood that used an extremely effective mind control mechanism and extortion tool, enabling the assassins to control the civilized world for several centuries. 1119 AD. The Knight of Templar was established as a Christian military unit after the First Crusade, but quickly transformed into the basis of the international banking system to accumulate money to conduct the agenda of operatives for vestiges of the Old Empire on Earth. 1307 AD. King Philip IV of France disbanded the Knights Templar. He pressured Pope Clement V to condemn the Templars' members. He had them arrested, tortured into giving false confessions, and burned them at the stake to erase his debt by seizing all of their wealth. A majority of Templars fled to Switzerland, where they established an international banking system that secretly controls the global economy. The banks operate covertly as non-combatant provocateurs to covertly promote and finance weapons trade and warfare between nations. The purpose of the senseless genocide and carnage of wars financed by these international banks is to prevent the EBs of Earth from sharing open communication, cooperating in activities that might enable EBs to prosper, become enlightened, and escape their imprisonment. 1914 AD. A deaf officer sent on a reconnaissance mission arrived on Earth during spring. He inhabited the body of a member of the ruling House of Habsburg in Austria to be in a better position to execute his orders. Ramuth, the highly accomplished land mission specialist, accepted the dangerous mission without hesitation. His life on Earth, unfortunately, came to an end after getting shot. He was caught off guard when his host, the body of the Archduke, was assassinated by a Bosnian student. The assassin shot the Archduke in the neck, forcing Ramuth outside his host body. Unfortunately, the impact made Ramuth momentarily disoriented and he unknowingly penetrated an occult force screen. Upon capture, the bots instantly recognized Ramuth as a deaf officer due to his EB signature and characteristic energy emanation of a high-powered EB, which is not inherent on Earth. As such, he was taken directly to Base Commander Bartzabel in an underground base 500 miles north of the equator of Mars, the Cydonia region. Exhaustive attempts to subdue Officer Ramuth using electric shock and hypnosis to turn him into a mindless prisoner destined for planet Earth failed. In 1940, Ramuth escaped from his electronic cell during a momentary security lapse and returned to the deaf base located in the asteroid belt. While it's not the deaf's mission to directly intervene in Earth's affairs, it's difficult, at best, to remain indifferent to the colossal cruelty and suffering inflicted by the bots on Earth EBs. Since several thousand deaf personnel are still captive on Earth, we can justify whatever measures are necessary to rescue them. However, this does not grant the deaf permission to violate mission orders or alter the established protocols of the domain expeditionary forces. 1940 AD, Prison Planet. The official debriefs filed by Land Mission Specialist Ramuth regarding his captivity on Mars revealed the bot's definition of untouchables. This term referred to anyone unwilling or unable to submit to mindless economic, political, and religious servitude as a tax-paying worker in the class system of the old empire. The troublemakers were sentenced to memory wipeout and permanent imprisonment on Earth. The cycle of life-death treatment is repeated endlessly, and currently, only a handful of EBs have escaped from this prison. The same EBs who built and ruined Rome repeated the same in Greece, Mesopotamia, and India. The savage EBs of Europe who destroyed each other in the Middle Ages moved on to kill the indigenous people of North America, who were already waging wars against themselves. The diverse and divergent human population on Earth is an artificially enforced assembly of untouchables from thousands of planets and countless cultures. Priest, politician, soldier, and banker, in unison, ensure that no lobsters escape from the boiling pot. If the lobsters attempt to flee, they are pushed back down into the boiling bubbles of doom. The domain has never seen anything like this gruesome scene. If our invasion plans ever take us to such a planet again, we avoid it like a deadly plague and place the entire region under quarantine. Or eradicate the population. 2017 AD. On October 2017, the Supreme Master Suma Qinghai, an enlightened Kuan-Yin master, destroyed all the occult screens installed around the Earth's atmosphere. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we sincerely hope you send the video link to your circle who share the same beliefs and interests as yourself. Thank you for watching.
Come around, lay down your telephone. No, we don't know. We think we're broken or alone. Vibrations don't matter. and knife's not sharp. Now peace of mind, I've taught my dogs to bark. Oh, guilty or not, you're spreading, let me steer you. Now let me steer you while you shoot. What's the essence in every lesson? When uphill is a blessing. What's the essence of no pretense, just present? Come around, lay down your telephone. Oh, we don't know, we think we're broken or alone. It's not true, not for me, not for you.